We're back, and I stepped out of my usual reading habit. I just finished Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey, and this story caught me. It's a story from an LGBTQ perspective, and I saw that took place in the West, and so I thought, okay, it's a Western, not one I usually read. In fact, I don't know that I've read a book of fiction like this before, and so I set out, and at the end of it, I was very underwhelmed. I've told you before that I tend to not read the blurbs in the back of books because I don't want to go in with this understanding of what I'm supposed to be expecting or what I should feel about a book. I kind of want to get just the basic notion of what it's about and then read it for myself or watch the movie for myself. And so I saw that this was a Western, a fresh look at the Western. Okay, I don't read Westerns, and I have not read an LGBTQ perspective fiction before. And so I went into this not knowing what to expect. And the story itself is pretty basic. Esther is this woman who runs away because her best friend who she was in love with, this woman was executed because she had unapproved materials. So in this world, you're not allowed to read certain things, you're not allowed to partake in certain things, and so she was executed. They didn't even know that they were lovers, and so because you're not allowed to be non-hetero, non-binary. And so she runs away, and she joins up with this group of women who are librarians. These librarians, they deliver books and reading materials all over the U.S. And, they ride in their horse and carriages, their horse and wagons, not carriages, their horse and wagons. They take these reading materials all over. And so she wants to join the librarians, one, to get away, but also because she feels like the librarians are these morally upright, upstanding women. And so she's kind of trying to rid herself of these feelings and these deviant desires. And so really the plot is that Esther joins these women, and they're going on a delivery. They're going to make this delivery to Utah. And that's really the gist of the story. The story is very short. It's 171 pages, which I found very, very small. And because of this, there's really not a lot of development of anything. So I was also kind of shocked because I didn't even realize, and again, because I wasn't reading everything about what the book was about, didn't even realize that this was a kind of a near future science fiction dystopian future, because it wasn't until a good ways into the book where they talked about gasoline for vehicles and that it was rationed because of war efforts. But up to that point, they are wearing cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and they ride horses, and there's executions by hangings, and there's wagons, and it's just books and telegraphs. And it was kind of jarring, like, oh wait, this is a story taking place now or in the near future. Was very, very kind of jarring, because the other thing is they also talk in very stereotypical Western talk. In fact, the jacket, the main blurb on Amazon, this is the first line on the blurb. It says, "That girl's got more wrong notions than a barn owl's got mean looks. Tarnation." Like, that's the language that's used throughout it. So that was also kind of annoying, was that every single metaphor was like, that's slicker than a cactus on a noonday lunch. That's drier than a titmouse with an ear full of owl pellets. I mean, it's just like very bizarre, just kind of the very cliche Western-timey phrases, which would have fit had it been in actual Western times. There's no problem with that, but it's also just weird that it's not the Old West, and yet that's how they talk. So that threw me off. The other thing that kind of threw me off was the fact that Cy, who Esther falls in love with, kind of the rebound, Cy is non-binary, does not identify as female. So biologically female does not identify as female, refers to themselves as they. So I'm not used to reading this kind of language, so it really confused me for a long time as the book was going through, and it'd be they talked to Esther, or Esther replied and then they said to her, and I was thinking, I thought Esther's just talking to Sai, and wait, who all's here? And then realizing, oh, they're talking about Sai. Sai refers to themselves as they, them, their. So that took getting used to. I don't know. It was tough because there's times when there's multiple people, and there's times when it's just Sai, and all of them were they and them. So very confusing to read and listen to. I tend to judge a book by its purpose and its intent. There are books that are meant to entertain. There are books that are meant to inform. There are books that are meant to be taken seriously. There are books that are meant to explore. And this was a weird mixture because I read lots of science fiction, and lots of science fiction has non-binary characters. There's lots of women, falling in love with women, men with men, pan-gender, non-gender specific, gender fluid. That's very common in science fiction, but it's just there. It's accepted as normal. That in the future, or on different colonies and planets and stuff, that people are just with whoever they're with. And yet this was this very, on one hand, almost kind of this naive, where Esther is shocked that there are other people like her that don't just like the opposite gender. And so on the one hand, it's almost like this ignorant view, and this look like, oh, there's other people like this, like I'm not the only person in the entire world like this. Then on the other hand, you've got where it's super strict, where you've got these fascist views where you can't wear pants, you couldn't be seen liking someone else, you're getting executed for being non-binary, and so the whole point is that you can love who you want to love, and that it's okay to be who you are and to be confident in yourself. And so that's one of the main sticking points. And then there's this story that really doesn't take place as far as just the world that they're in. They mention things, that there's a nation, and they talk about quadrants in the US, but there's nothing that really builds this world at all. And like I said, I literally thought this was just the Old West, except for the fact that they mentioned gasoline. Because you can't tell what the actual world looks like, because all you see is these few women together going on this delivery with their books, and that's it. And even the librarians, there's very little information as far as that goes. So I'm not really sure what the world is. So I'm not, is this a story that is to tell about the strife and the overcoming in an LGBTQ community? Is this a trying to build a dystopian science fiction world? Is this, I don't know. Like, it feels like all of these different aspects of this are very weakly developed. They're very shallow in the way that they're approached. And then, is it a love story? Because you've got Esther with Sai, but even that's kind of this just, it's there, but it's not focused on. So you've got these three elements, and they all just kind of go forward in a mediocre way. And so at the end, Esther is empowered, kind of. Esther ends up with Sai, kind of. They both kind of take over. Not to spoil this, but it just felt very incomplete. It felt like there were several different things the author was trying to say and trying to do, and none of them were fully realized. And again, in 171 pages, there was very little room to build everything that needed to be built in the story. So I came away, it was different for me, it was interesting, it was a good expansion of just my reading and what I typically read. But there's got to be better books out there that are doing the same thing and are told from this same perspective. Because I wanted to like this. I wanted to like something that was different, but it just fell flat for me. So you can check it out. Check out, apparently Sarah's other books are very well received and have won awards. And so might check those out. But again, Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. You can check it out. Read what you want to read. Don't read what you don't want to read. My name is Mark Taylor. Until next time, keep reading and know that you're more valuable than you could possibly imagine.